All right. Yeah, I want to go ahead, but it turns out that meme right below the interview is not as quite as accurate. I think my swear jar is filling up pretty good, but I want to apply everything I can learn to what I already believe, and I'm in the same spot. Part four is picking up where part three ended. Uh, the money is being interjected by the Death Star at this point. It is just a pound in cash up the rear end of the Resistance. Well, the Resistance is an illusion. So here it's being called, the protesters are being played as innocent victims. But it appears that we have to ignore the mostly peaceful but fiery protests. That the word salad and the mind games were probably within, at full warp speed by this time. And technically, it appears we might have been funding the Klingon army, not, uh, you know, the nice Vulcans. And wow, was I not kidding. Are protesters allowed to seize government buildings in any other country? Not usually, but it turns out once they're allowed to infiltrate it, burn it to the ground, film it, and rally around the smoldering embers that are still sitting there to this day. While homeless camps full of literal junkies and rapists are no-go zones for authority, and social workers appear to be applying no help. Land piracy going through the roof right next door, and then I wonder what's been going on in my local community because I'm pretty sure that seeps through. But very interesting how the funds only sided one side of the citizenry. So this democracy I keep hearing about, is that a real thing, or is it only a one-sided leftist ideology? Because if it is, it's really, really starting to look like Chinese democracy. And boy, that's a shit thing. I don't care. Every person who's been there and defends it, because I've got at least 3 or 4 on the channel. Wrong. The social network score alone and the fact that the military is mostly there, I believe, to crush the citizens. I don't care what the elites see. No. I would have to look at a lot deeper subject matter than pretty shiny infrastructure that woos the moneyed set of society. Turns out I don't give a fuck about them. Even if I could become them, I wouldn't join them at their masquerade balls. Wow, does he make a good point? Because we know hands up, don't shoot is another one. The actual details are problematic to anybody who believes the narrative, but you know what I mean? That same individual probably believes people in a cave made Building 7 fall into its own basement. Right? So I can't help there. This would enter us into all opinions are for entertainment purposes only, and we probably don't agree. We probably like each other on a whole bunch of different levels, but this one won't be it. Now, when I was definitely on the other side of things, I actually I listened to the anonymous drops. The idea of a loose collective of minds fighting against the monster really seemed like a good idea. But then they never could get any of the propaganda stories right. It turns out to get some of the stories right, I have to ignore all the details presented and only buy a rage narrative. I don't have that rage narrative in me no more. I'm willing to see both sides at least to start. Well, just because I was on both sides, so I'm like, hey, it might as well be fair. I think both sides have. Hey, you want to hear about where both sides have good people? The middle division line. There's great people on both sides of the middle because they're swayed by that. Well, like that one person who went viral. There's just some goofball dude, soft, has been swayed for a long time, and is finally waking up to the ideas that, hey, wow, I don't believe any of my own thoughts. I'm silly putty, and I have been haphazardly squished against a narrative, peeled back, and I have reflected it, distorted, and weakened. But I've still disseminated it amongst all my peers because I was told so. No one grabbed me by the hand and had me engage in any critical thought. So I never examined any of it from the other side at all, ever. I just believed what I was told. Silly putty. I would like to be much more than silly putty, a flesh slug, or any sort of created techno-human, you know, servant. Seems like a bad way to go. And yeah, I'm pretty sure all kinds of money has been interjected into certain movements in our country to ensure that they got good coverage. Years later, of course, you have to ignore the indictments, the scandals, and the controversies. Shh. Just go back to the photo op. If you believe in the photo op long enough, our dreams can come true. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember what was going on in 2014 here. That would take some side research, and I don't think we're gonna have a side story flashback or anything like that. But I do find, like I said, this is so. It appears to me like a tinfoil hat, or again, just nonstop reinforcement that it was a non-organic event, and I would have to keep with this one. The marchers were immune from the pandemic. That's just it's like the magical space in the restaurants, the magical timeout on the plane where you get to eat your peanuts and drink. No real thinking person can agree with that. I would hope. I'm willing for comments and rebuttals at this moment, but I'm not talking about legitimate. I don't. If I would have to take precautionary measures if I went into an actual contaminated or infected environment. But then, if actual contaminated or infected environments existed, I wouldn't really be allowed to engage like in public eating and movies and flights, right? I mean, that part of society, if it was a legitimate deal, would have to take the hit. The corporations would have to take it on the bottom line, not the people endangered with their lives, right? We couldn't just turn it into a crapshoot for anybody with money, could we? Oh, it's all complicated because it appears that communications were leaked. So once again, we have that, 2014. Were we at the period where whistleblowers were starting to be considered no good? Oh, I think we were. I think we were back in the time where they were starting to demonize. I better do a little research. Oh, okay. Wow, the plot thickened. I would go back to the South Park narrative on Obama. I got nothing against. I didn't even think Big Mike was a check. I thought, hey, again, I must be cool with passable trannies. I'm kidding. I don't actually know what the deal is on there, but I know the internet loves that subject. Um, I had no problems. I wasn't a hater back then. I had other things going on. Um, but we were. Well, this is the thing. I was kind of I wasn't I was switching teams around here. So then I was starting to wonder why whistleblowers who used to be heroes were now becoming our enemies, and I forgot. Yeah. So I suppose Biden. Yeah, I didn't even think that Biden was the puppet of this administration. See, I didn't even think that way. I wasn't. I wasn't really following none of that. Not like that then. I would have been just a straight crazy person, I'm sure, um, for the most part. Uh, Mostly recovered, but still, right? I would have been still drinking and smoking and partying and a decade ago. Yeah, yeah. Interesting. So basically, yeah, there was some leaked. Hey, I wonder, sort of like the payments and money laundering that Hunter, where's my cat? Some other people with the same name as my cat were involved in that kind of, I can see how all those leaks, and I can see we're in the period where leaking the truth to people was really problematic because we were being told a couple different stories at once, and then we were going to be set up for these same kind of actions in the near future. I wonder if they knew then they were going to unleash what they did. That brings up all kinds of serious tinfoil hat questions. Because, I mean, some of it had to have been pre planned, waiting for the, let's say, most ideal kickoff point. Do I think it was planned? No, I'm not. I would never go there. Even though I think there's foreshadowing in places that are so creepy, you're like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Is it all a script? Starting to feel like it. Wow. Hey, I wish I would have knew more then, but now I just learned now. I would really want to check the other side, so we're going to go with the typical always and ever standing opinions are for entertainment. But yeah, they're now we're now throwing around the real openly the coup word, and they ain't keeping chickens out there. Um, nope, this coop seems like it was the heart of that leaked conversation. Didn't know that's where Attaboy came from, but uh, uh, get him out there to deliver that Attaboy. You can do it. You've got the power of our administration behind you performance. Ooh, very interesting there. And man, remember, I'm once again outside of Mike D, who's is enjoying this as a hopefully just a masterpiece. Uh, I'm just some cat living in midwestern Wisconsin. I don't know nothing. Somebody go install some more carpet and linoleum flooring. Uh, but it turns out if I am capable of figuring this out, or at least applying it to my thought process once again, saying I don't know. There's a whole other side, I'm sure. Well, I mean, all these people can defend why they're doing what they're doing it for. But because I see where we are at in the world at this point now, I did. It was for gender studies, for hard left Marxist indoctrination purposes. I mean, that's kind of what it started to look like. Wow. I rewound it a couple times. Hey, all I know is I don't know that many people that are all into nation building. If I get them to talk about it, I can't get them to say anything that would resemble a coherent thought on the idea. But then why are our elected officials involved in what appears to be just nation building all the time? We learned all the way back to the 60s, so let's say, we're my age. It appears that before our lifetimes they were dicking around, so they had their dick all slammed in the dirt way back in the day. right? Alphabet agencies infiltrating everywhere. How do we know? Oh, wait, declassified documents actually tell us this is true. So I'm definitely with the meme warriors on this one. Yeah. Oh no, they did all that other stuff, but now it's okay. Yeah. No, all that other stuff declassified. We know it's true. They're telling the truth now, though. Come on. Once again, I don't care what side of the fence you're on there. I don't care who's in charge. Replace leadership ideas with your enemies and then have the same argument. Imagine you and one other person on a beach having this discussion. Without the outside influences, are these ideas and things that you'd ever can get across to each other? Are these only ideas that exist when people are manipulated and made to look the other? Do not look behind the curtain. Do not notice the glitches in the matrix. Because doesn't it just fucking start falling apart? Ed. So now I just got there. It is, I understand why it's also confusing. Because it's embraced by both the insider and social change alphabet armies, plus the neocon war machine. And that's where the line is finally drawn in the sand. And fuck the two wings on the one bird. I might have to go with any of the outsiders bringing up the pandemic, the border, the other things, because none of those subjects are the bird won't address any of those subjects. So obviously, and can be leading me to my demise as well. But at least the outsiders are having conversation about items that I would tend to want to talk about. The system on both sides hates me. It fucking hates me. I think it hates you and everybody else, but that's just my opinion. So I know it hates me. The machine that is grinding us up right now has only a single tunnel vision view of the future. And they've already checkboxed, labeled, and named its participants. I ain't one of them. So I know they fucking hate me. And they're both on the same team. They lie to me or they blame me. And then they get together behind my back and bend me over. I know this. It is 100% true, undeniable, quantifiable fact.
Wants very much to change the strategic dynamic in Eastern Europe. The neocons are very smart people, and they've been at this for a long time. They came in around the issue of propaganda. They studied how to create hot buttons for the American people. They had this experience when they were getting the American people to get excited about Central America back in the 1980s.
Sandinista regular army.
And for me, that's all, because that's right there. That's all I got to use, and it nails the whole thing. But it's okay. That's where the Chomsky, the manufacturing consent, comes into it. At least now I know, and for pretty accurately, that when they were calling evil rebels in American news, evil rebels, what they really meant to say was poor or landowning farmers or peasant country, some land issues. I'm just going to go with that. But in the hearts and minds back home, they're the bad guys. And this is where they throw that back at you. They tell you about the death squads and this shit. And they paint these horrible pictures. But do you know, oddly enough, who we were funding? Because when you go down the big list of atrocities, you find out, holy shit, we're the meme again. Are we the baddies? Oh, yes, we were. Once again, nation building, influencing, advising, I'm sure for grants, incentives, and accommodations into the world shit show. Because I have seen things, and this is the side I'm watching. You see their first ladies and some of their other people, boy, they love this fucking life they get to live. But if what they're doing would honestly go against 90% of people's best decision-making process, how is it always, it's just, this is why it's gotta be, and I saw the meme, it's not the top, right? It's the two far edges of the tippity top, and then every flesh slug and familiar below them. And then from the center out is the, the masses of just, us. It's gotta be. It's gotta be. Because there's so many bad decisions on the planet. They play just the most horrific sides of it against us nonstop. I can't believe, given other opportunities of communication and connection, we wouldn't actually come to different decisions. And I know this is all super, super fucking safe. I am pretty sure I'm as in middle of the road territory as I can get because we get to talk about it. So if that's the case, I want to engage in it, but I'm not here to take a side in it. I'd like to see an end to it all. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've been on that page since I started this gig. Oh, sure. And then they just nailed the regime change list where, we had a certain amount of places on a list. It's been talked about, but only us crazy people, I guess, are allowed to think that it's even real. But the video, the speech, it all exists. This is where it gets so weird to me. And then all the places on the list and everything the person said has actually come to pass. Except for the ones they ain't quite got to yet, but wink, wink, it appears we're getting to now. So what is it? What is it? If the tinfoil hatters, at the very least, been saying this thing for the whole time, and then it comes true, were they really crazy? Were they? Or is it turned out that a lot of the secret intel actually leaks? Because, once again, for the umpteenth time, it's a boiling frog. But it can't get too upset because you have to go along with it. Or I have to go along with it, so I can't get too uppity about it. I certainly can't debate it, think about it, or weigh the outcomes of multiple avenues. Can't apply any game theory to it as a regular citizen. The only game you should be playing is, online poker. Oh, yep. And then the tinfoil hatters are right, because it appears this is where we really beta tested the dehumanize, devalue. Right? It's the same stuff is found in the homes of, let's say, a whistleblower. And then it's the same kind of narrative that everyone says, oh, they're horrible, we hate them. They're the worst people. Even if it was planted, it doesn't matter. Our hearts and minds are changed. And here's where we start testing our social network skills, is what we're really learning, is by 2014, they are really wielding influencer energy. And then it makes sense why the Arab Spring, and oddly enough, I only think that's relevant because I watched a bunch of building where the old Cairo and the new Cairo, and it's weird how some of those weird color change movements and huge construction projects. Could it be money? Could it be a trail of money that's easy to follow if you follow the people who would take the time and effort to put into it? I think that was a rhetorical question.
Conservatives can now demonize a leader of a country. That sells with the American people. So you don't just sort of argue a policy, you attack the leader. So the neoconservatives became very skilled at picking out leaders, finding their ugly traits, and then highlighting them. Yanukovych, you might say, was a rather clunky political leader, but you make him into a devil. He's totally corrupt, and he's evil, and he wants to kill people in the Maidan, these wonderful white-hatted demonstrators. So you've got a black hat versus white hat.
Now, I'm just saying that is in line, what we're talking about. We're not getting very far ahead, so I'm going to see if I can get far ahead and get into some other subject matter. I think I understand this far enough, or at least far enough as I would care to understand it without reflecting it upon some of the other side's opinions. Keeping in mind that I wouldn't want to hear the other side's argument if it has to do with far extreme ideology being pushed around the world to ensure a global new world order based on perversion. I don't care what we do in private as long as we do no harm, but as a world political platform, I'm drawing my line there. I'm not going to partake in that. I do draw the movie, the Xerxes Army, and some of those scenes, I think, explain all too well why I don't side with that. Because I think the line between do no harm and do lots of harm wrapped up in moral ambiguity exists. And the slippery slope has been proven too many times. So I'll see where we can get to. And I get 45 seconds because then they go into examples of repeating the same ideas ad nauseum, driving them home. And oddly enough, today I started with that prong update video addressing the same kind of behavior, but for musician ideology. Oh, hey, I think I've been doing okay. For the amount of words coming out, I haven't stumbled over the majority of them. So, I got into the montage section of talking points. And, yep, ain't no different than a huge mega rally that, you could attend. And I don't attend them either. But I understand both sides has their talking points, but this does, unfortunately, reaffirm some of the tinfoil hat ideas I've been spitting at the camera for quite a bit now. Weird. Yep, this is going to be impossible. It'll just have to be my first master work, even if it's a big waste of time. We just entered the realm of discussing the real existence of the gray hat. And I think if for future, because this is going to take a long time, down in the comments, if the concept of the white hat, the gray hat, the black hat, from hacking and all that influence and activism sphere doesn't make sense, we should talk about it. Because to me, that's common knowledge, right? That there is opinion spreading trolls and meme warriors, and then there's just neutral, right? There's just that neutral group fucking with everybody. Maybe for their own means, maybe just to get kicks. But as a D&D guy, I understand the illusion of lawful good, chaotic neutral, or chaotic evil, excuse me, lawful good, chaotic evil, and all the spectrums in between, basically. Because as a gamer, instead of wanting to feel sorry for the orcs, they're smoking some weed and having deep thought about alignment issues within party dynamics. Because I'm like, hey, I don't think those two characters could even go together. What do you mean? Well, did you think about it? I mean, the rules tell us what the alignments mean. So they were defined by the, Gary Gygax and his crew back in the day, then co-opted by TSR, and then, stole by Milton Bradley, and now being sold to a Chinese company because, fuck that legacy. But I was, learning alignment issues, and it was defined, and, the lawful good perceives itself as righteous and holy, and we won't throw around the pretentious word, but come on. And then that chaotic evil is just negative for negative sakes only, and reveling and enjoying the entire process. Right? And they're defined. So, I was like, so it just realizing that it's all this ideological or spiritual battle, if you will, because I'm going to keep reflecting upon the cults of personality within music. Obviously, the certain band worship that's used, I don't hate Nightwish, but some of those stardust nothing people who worship that band like golden idols don't realize they're spitting atheistic belief systems as they're practicing a literal cult worship. And you can't, right? You can't have that discussion because a cult member doesn't realize they're in the cult, right? That's why you have to dispel, demystify, deprogram a cult member. You don't just take them out. It's unfortunately the parallels the abused partner, right? You don't just snatch you can snatch the abused partner out of the relationship, but you can't take the willingness to be beat or the desire to beat out of the individual, right? The acceptance of abuse or reveling in abuse, unfortunately, defines some of those individuals, and just removing them from the scenario doesn't change their core belief system, right? The three-sided coin on this one, why don't lottery winners always succeed? So it turns out a free pile of money doesn't actually make everyone's life change. Why would that be? Because we're hardwired to some of our activities, and no matter what the public perception is, we can't actually change it. You can lead the horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. Wow. And then they just went to the whole point where, okay, first, oddly enough, you demonize the leader, whether they might be neutral, could be chaotic neutral, but there's neutral tendencies there. You demonize that position. They could be good, bad, or ugly. It doesn't matter. You demonize that position. And then after enough successful demonization of that leader, anyone who talks about that leader is now as guilty as the leader. Now, oddly enough, we're rolling into the big story. That seems like why we're here. So the parallels are weird, because obviously the programming into this story comes a lot farther back than our collective interest in the war zone. You see, there's my dilemma, because I don't remember these issues being in the hearts and minds of citizens. So was it secretly funneling money through NGOs at that time until they could get it to a head? So then we would agree hearts and minds wholeheartedly to send as much printed shit as we could? Wow, yeah. Wow.
Сакральных жертв. Это часть технологий.
It can also be called a method of betrayal, when the allies and followers are relentlessly thrown into the revolutionary flame. The idea is simple. When the preparation work is done, the trigger just needs to be pulled to set the machine into full motion. The murder of politician Rafiq Hariri led to the Cedar Revolution. Looking back at the mysterious poisoning of Viktor Yushchenko right before the Orange Revolution of 2004, we see now that he became a sacred victim himself. Most political analysts believe the compassion of the Ukrainian people at that moment tilted the scales, giving him the presidency.
Now, I 100% think there's other sides to these statements. I'm not starstruck by Oliver Stone. But this last segment, I think we'll move on for today. I'd rather do some other stuff. Yeah, this obviously will get its own playlist someday. And if it's a 10-hour deal, I don't know how long we're into it now. I think we're a couple hours in. I am only 51 minutes into the first documentary. There's another documentary and the entire speech. I don't care how long it takes, because let's say this whole thing is the moment that the Tim Pools and the Joe Rogans and the other influencers that I like, even on the other side. Didn't they just say if we don't fund it, they're going to send our kids to go die there soon? So, obviously, it appears to be this big deal. Well, if it's one of those turning points in history, I believe I've been running my mouth enough to know that maybe some reflection upon it as it's going down is a lot better than being swept up in the tidal wave that it could become. And with that, hopefully we'll join you back here soon tomorrow with more. Later.